Hi, everybody. Today we're going to talk about limited mobility. It's an often forgot about inclusion, and it's something that we're going to cover today. We're going to cover not only what is limited mobility and how far and how wide that goes, how we can go ahead and build applications that actually include these individuals and make sure that they are able to enjoy whatever application that you're creating to its fullest. And then we're going to talk about some future ways that we can work together and make sure that people with limited mobility are included. So, just like many things that we've talked about here during this conference, making sure that people with limited mobility are included is about choice. It allows them to have the choice to be able to enjoy an application, the choice to engage in the application how they'd like, and the choice to be able to choose whatever application they'd like. Just like all the rest of us, they would like to enjoy the same wonders and the same amazing things that have come out of the XR industry over the last several years. But for them to be able to do that, they need a little help. And we're going to talk about that a little here and a little there today, and make sure to give you, so that you can take home some ideas of how to be able to make some inclusion within your application. Because this is a group of people that are absolutely ravenous for content. Many people don't remember or don't think about, or just completely have an oversight, or think it's too difficult to make sure that people who have limited mobility are included. I'm going to tell you today, it's not. Very, very simple. Minor changes to any given application can make sure that those with limited mobility have the choice to be able to enjoy whatever content that you're able to create. So, a little bit about me. My name is Tim Porter, and I am the CTO at ModTech Labs. ModTech Labs automates content creation. We are 3D in a click, and we make sure that we can make 3D easy. The biggest thing that we want to be able to do is, as these XR worlds open up and expand, that everyone will be able to make the content that their heart desires. There's no reason why you need 3 bachelor's degrees in 5 different programs to be able to make a single piece of content that goes into metaverse, Web3, new content creation, XR, or even movies. We believe that given the right tools, anyone can really be an amazing content creator. Give you a little background on me. I was a technical artist in video games, and in movies, I was a pipeline technical director. Uh, what that means is, in video games, I made tools for artists, hence what we do at Mod. I made sure that the artists were spoken for, and that they could raise their voice, and so that they were given a place that they could go ahead and create content no matter the technical difficulty. I was an advocate for them. I was also an advocate for the application itself, making sure that the games were optimized and they came to the end user in the most amazing way possible. Sometimes that meant being creative, sitting down with the development team, design team, and art team, making minor changes and adjustments. Sure, the design team may come in and say, I want 100-headed Hydra. Of course, I look over the art team, drawing everything but 100-headed Hydras, and the dev team, they're doing everything, throwing a table, a chair at me, going, I'm never going to be able to do it. A little bit of creativity and a lot of negotiation. We come out with a 90-headed Hydra. The art team has a tool that automates all those head generated, and the dev team has a promise that we're going to follow the naming convention, and that all the exports are going to slip in right, nice and neat to whatever their folder structure, whatever their hearts desired. So out of this, in my career in both games and in movies, I was that pipeline technical director. Last movie I worked on was Alice in Wonderland. I'm starting a studio called Underminer Studios. We did lots of really interesting things. We did everything from projects from Microsoft, Intel, KPMG, everything in between. But one of the really amazing ones that we did was for quantum rehabilitation. Quantum is the second largest power motorized wheelchair manufacturer in the world. They create wheelchairs that make sure that anyone could be able to drive. one of the things that they always ran into was training. How do we ensure that individuals who leave their care facilities are prepared to be able to drive these very quick and, frankly, very heavy devices that could hurt both them and the people around them? Well, that's where simulations come into mind. We came to them with an idea, and out of it became one of the most amazing experiences I was ever a part of. That included the ability to go ahead and hijack the drive control. Literally took the device that would normally drive the wheelchair, make it go forward, backwards, spin, all of these different things. And instead, it ran the game experience. So you could do a joystick. You can use really cool things like a head array. So say you don't have hands, you can't use your hands or arms, or that's not where your strength is. You can end up using your head. You can do things like sip and puff, so you can blow with a straw. And you could actually engage, drive, and learn how to appropriately run your power chair. That's where we came in, to make sure that people were safely being able to do this. One of the craziest things that we ended up learning throughout the experience was one of the dangers of the power chair industry is that people who are at a care facility have about 10 to 15 hours to be considered proficient in their power chair before they leave the facility. And what's even crazier is they may not get all of those 10 hours in a power chair. They may get it in a regular wheelchair. So the odds are stacked against them. And so we gave them a tool in their favor so that they could sit down and on their times be able to learn how to drive the chair in a safe and controlled environment. On top of this, out of the learnings that I received from creating this wonderful creation is I end up writing the standards, working with CTA to write these standards for limited mobility of XR. So CTA are the people who run CES. They're the Consumer Technology Association. And so we were able to bring together groups, including Quantum was there. There are also other major wheelchair manufacturers, major scanning manufacturers, talking about being able to get people to go ahead and drive their chairs, and equipment manufacturers and doctors, and several developers that sat down and wrote, hey, these are the best practices when it comes to creating power chair projects or any project of limited mobility. And we're going to actually go through some of the things that we learned there. And then as well, there will be a link in this bio about me to the standards. So anyone can go ahead and read those standards and actually add it to their application or whatever they're working on in that world. So what is limited mobility? Limited mobility is a very wide and broad term. Many times when people think of limited mobility, they think of someone in a wheelchair. They think of somebody who is not able to walk, somebody who is not able to use their arms. And while those are correct, we're going to go through a very light overview on what it is and how it can manifest itself. So here's a light overview of what limited mobility can be. You can be an amputee. So amputations can happen all the way from the smallest part of a finger all the way up to an entire arm, a leg, and continue. What's even crazier is it could be one arm, one leg. It could be part of an arm, part of a leg. It could be part of an opposite leg, an arm, both arms, a leg. And so it can be a number of different things. So being able to go ahead and change around the way that the application works is very important. The other thing to remember when you're talking about somebody who has an amputation is they may or may not have a prosthetic to help them interact. They may or may not want to use that prosthetic on their downtime. They may want to use a cane. They may want to use, in the case of a leg amputation, what looks like a long crutch that attaches to the end of the leg. There's a lot of different answers and a lot of different ways that this can be put together. We're going to talk about how you go ahead and ensure that those individuals do have the choice to use your application. You can talk about spine damage. Spine damage, once again, it can be everything from the bottom of your tailbone all the way up to the top of your neck. And where and how it's damaged can have a lot of very interesting ways that it interacts with the individual. So you could have limited feeling, you could have weakness, you could have partial weakness, you could have temporary weakness, you could have weakness that comes and goes. You could have the ability 1 minute and then the next minute that could go away. But that doesn't mean that these people can't enjoy your application. Once again, we totally talk about every single part and piece and how we'll ensure that they will be taken care of and that they can have the choice. Another thing is limited vision. Limited vision can be color related, it can be location related. They could lose vision around one side. They could lose perfect vision, which is actually kind of helpful if you're doing XR because their lack of perfect vision means no motion sickness, right? But as well, it means that you may have to change how you interact with these individuals and how these individuals interact with the applications around. Another thing can be limited dexterity. Limited dexterity is very interesting because you're talking about how people either hold controllers or how they can press controllers or how they can do button combinations and things like that. And so that's something that you have to really kind of pay attention to as you're building this. And I think the biggest thing to remember is that limited mobility is very individual. Every single individual who has limited mobility has a different case of limited mobility than every other individual. And so allowing them to have choice and having cumulative choice can be really easy to set up. It could change the life of somebody who has, say they have a spine damage, limited dexterity, and vision loss in one eye. We're going to talk about some of the ways that you can go ahead and create that. But this is something that you have to kind of wrap your head around, is that how broad, how wide, and how individual this can be. So this is something that I alluded to at the very beginning, is it seems very daunting. It seems absolutely massive. It seems like there's no way for you to help. It's not true. Not at all. Building for limited mobility isn't hard. It doesn't have to be. It takes a little creativity. It takes a lot of forethought. And the biggest thing that it takes is a lot of heart. So, a little overview. One of the things to remember, you're talking about somebody who has an amputation or a back issue, is sit versus stand. Give people the opportunity to be able to sit. Maybe after a long day they want to sit. Heck, many days after a long day, I want to sit. It'd be nice to be able to play a game like Space Pirate Trainer sitting down. And that's something that they want to be able to do. And this can be simple as a toggle, a choice to allow them to sit while they're playing the game. The next one can be teleportation versus movement. If they have an amputation or visual dexterity or spine problem, they may not want to walk around their area. They're not necessarily super comfortable, with, having their eyes covered and having an application that has possibly been tested on them or not. And so, allowing people to teleport around, once again, really easy way to do that. Another one, this one's really overthought quite often, is different visuals, allowing you to go ahead and do things like change the color or remove the color. Something that's really crazy, and I had no idea until we started writing the standards, is that people with limited mobility who have visual issues may have an overload issue when it comes to color. So removing things and doing like black and white or allowing for a sepia tone or a duotone in your game could really make a difference for someone to be able to see things and read things. And that's another thing as well. Remember words. Something as simple as being able to point your controller at a sign and it read to you could be the difference between somebody enjoying a game, someone being frustrated and giving up. Another one as well is different controller setups. And this is something games had been very good about. XR games stopped being nearly as good about, and that's allowing for controller modifications. Changing the Y button to here and the X button and the shoulder buttons do this instead of that. And the same thing can be done with hand controls. It can be the difference between somebody being able to do a finger combination and someone not. This is something that I always think of is find somebody who doesn't play video games. If you can't find someone who is aptly abled, and see if they can use your controller combination. If they're confused or find it difficult or it gets in the way of gameplay, try making single button combinations. There's no reason why an individual can't go ahead and play pressing down a single button to do a multitude of combinations. There's many different games who have done that, done it extremely successfully, and some of them are some of the more difficult games that are out there. It doesn't necessarily mean somebody's wanting to play it easier. It means that somebody's wanting to play it. You really do want to enjoy your application. And you're not losing anything out of it. So obviously those are some really easy low-hanging fruits. Very quick changes. And there's not really a whole bunch that you end up having to do to your application to make sure that somebody can enjoy how you intended it to be enjoyed. So here's some other things to remember, and this is what we were talking about at the beginning, is that there are some things that don't quite fit into categories and some things that seem like it's either a no-brainer or it's not at the very beginning. So depending on how much you're experienced with people with limited mobility, some of these things may make sense, and some of these things may be completely off the wall, but they really do change how people can enjoy the application. So number one is early testing. Get in front of people. Make sure that somebody who has limited mobility is on your QA team, or that you can outsource to QA them. Another one is make sure that you have a diverse team. And this goes for any application. There's no reason why everybody in the application needs to look, think, talk, act, walk, starting to freak me out already, the exact same way. Everyone, when you have a different voice, different thought, and different opinion, adds to the uniqueness that is your application. And out of it, you'll also get different ideas. Everyone will have a different way that they can add to your application, in a different way that they can ensure that the application turns out the most amazing way possible. Another one is allow for combinations. This is something that's really cool. So if you allow for color to be removed, put on top of that the ability to teleport, and on top of that the ability to go ahead and point at signs and have it read to you, you're going to actually get a large number of people with degenerative diseases, which is a very difficult combination to deal with. But as long as you allow them to stack all of these modifiers on top, you end up getting a larger and larger group of people. And very rarely, when you add in combinations like this, are there as many unintended consequences as you tend to see when you're developing or designing a game. Another one is people want to customize. It seems like a no-brainer. Everyone really wants to be able to customize this. People also want to customize their avatars, the way the avatar looks, and how they deal with it. There are entire groups and subgroups of people that pimp their wheelchairs and literally put spinners on them and do absolutely everything with them. And you know what? It's a fashion statement for them. Why not? I wear nice clothes. I have a wonderful shirt. Why can't they do the same? That's something to remember here, is that people want to customize how they interact with your game and how they can enjoy themselves and represent themselves in that. And remember, image is important. People who have limited mobility don't want to look as a cherry case. They want to ensure that everyone can love and enjoy the world the way that they do. And just remember, choice can be easy. These things that we've talked about today can make sure that everyone can enjoy your application. It doesn't matter what their ablement, disablement, or everything in between. These people, everyone, should be able to enjoy what you've made.